Hi, I'm Jared Vojtovich with Minuteman Empire Automation Systems. Today we're going to discuss the basics of how to spec out an industrial machine vision camera. So for the purpose of this video, we'll be referencing information specific to Zebra cameras, but the concepts are applicable to any machine vision application regardless of the manufacturer. So looking at my screen here, we have a basic depiction of how photography works in general. On the right side, we have a sensor. So every camera has a different sensor, and it's really important to understand what your camera's sensor's format is, and this helps spec the camera properly. The next piece of terminology we have is the focal length. So this is really the distance from the lens at which the image comes in focus. The next piece of terminology we have is working distance. So how far is the front face of your lens to the object or the surface you're trying to measure? And then finally, we have field of view, which is really what the camera is seeing in terms of area. So this is a dimensional value in your horizontal direction as well as your vertical direction. So if I move my depiction out of the way, you can see the formulas that are used to calculate horizontal field of view as well as vertical field of view. These are made up of different parameters such as the sensor width, the sensor height, working distance, and lens focal length. So later in the video, when we get into the actual calculator, you'll see where those values are being pulled from. When I look at my hardware info, we can see the various products that we offer, which is the GTX product line as well as the CV60 product line. Now our GTX product line ranges anywhere from 2 megapixels up to 16 megapixels, and our CV60 product line ranges anywhere from 2.3 megapixels to 12.3 megapixels. You can also see the sensor geometries as well as the various parameters that make up those sensor geometries. So one thing to really keep in mind is what you're trying to do with the camera. So are you trying to do a measurement? If you're trying to do a measurement, what level of precision do you need? For example, if you're trying to measure something that is 50 thousandths of an inch, you really want to have roughly 10x that resolution. So you want to have a camera that's capable of measuring 5 thousandths of an inch. It just really helps the vision algorithms from determining a pass-fail criteria and gives you a little bit more of a buffer. So for example, you would want to make sure that each pixel measures out 5 thousandths of an inch. If you're not doing measurement, are you doing presence absence? If you're doing presence absence, what field of view do you need? Do you need to be able to see the entirety of the part, or do you just need to see a specific section? So from those, it really plays into the criteria that you need to understand before you can actually spec out the camera. The other thing is, are there any mounting constraints? Like, does your camera need to be, no less than 12 inches from your part, or does it need to be greater than, we'll say, 30 inches from your part? So understanding, what your working distance needs to be, what your field of view needs to be, and what resolution you need are going to really help you spec a camera. So when we dive into this basic calculator that we've created, if you do a basic Google search, you'll be able to find something very similar anywhere out there. There's a lot of large manufacturers that have them on their websites. This is just something that we've created here to help us spec cameras properly. So what we're able to do is switch between different cameras. Again, any of the product lines that we have. For example, in this scenario, we have a GTX 2000 and we're solving for working distance. So I can come in and change my field of view that I need. So let's say I needed 12 inches. I can see, okay, to get a horizontal field of view of 12 inches, I'm also going to get a vertical field of view of 8.9 inches, and my camera needs to be roughly 16.5 inches away from my part. If I wanted to solve, let's say, for example, for field of view, if I'm using a 12 millimeter lens and I'm 20 inches away from my part, I can see that, I have roughly a 10-inch horizontal field of view and roughly a 7-inch tall field of view as well. And I'm able to get a 5 thousandths resolution, meaning that each pixel will measure 5 thousandths of an inch. So this concludes the general overview of speccing an industrial camera. If you have any questions, please reach out to Minuteman Empire Automation Systems using the contact information in the description down below. Thank you.